One thing we have in common is risk management. And I don't know if you'll agree, uh, al- although we've done other things, but there's something about the risk discipline that makes it stand out, or people who have gone through a risk discipline, because we've met data people, stat people who were never risk people, like they're more like marketing people or something else. But there was always something for me about people who went through a risk management path at least once in their life. They tend to be, I don't know, I think a risk and a data profile work very well together, like hand in hand. Even if you're not doing risk analysis,
Mhm.
in a way, you still
Yeah,
bring that
yeah, yeah.
risk discipline with you. Do you agree with that, or can you explain that if you do? If it's something that you can relate to.
Okay. I agree with that to a certain extent. What I appreciate about specializing in risk is really being able to develop that discipline, because aside from you know um the rigor and looking at the data, being able to explain um the models, etc., we really have to understand the bigger context. We have to look at the regulations. We always risk is one of the first ones who have to explain to the regulators why certain results, especially with respect to capital and provisions, would be a certain way. And I think those are things that marketing people perhaps would not have to experience on a regular basis. No, so I guess that's what I appreciated about that exposure, that having that rigor and that discipline. And I think being in a risk function, I think it comes thinking about things more ethically comes naturally because you are being part of the risk function. You're looking after the bank and how it will perform with respect to its reputation, um, whether it will survive, uh, a black swan event, etc. So, yeah, but um, what I do like though about being exposed now, no, in Sirlet is being exposed to is the marketing functions and all other types of domains is the freedom to apply any methodology or um, any data, explore any data to solve a problem. No? So I guess that's a good combination, being able to have that discipline and at the same time um, have the ability to explore possibilities and be creative is a good combination. So,
Yeah, we make, I don't know if it's a proper term na nga, no, but we and maybe we can explain it in a bit, no. Parang we do a lot of data blending, like ADs was
yeah.
an example of that, no. Parang okay, we get remote sensing, mix it up with Google, mix it up with satellites and because for some reason, and this is probably more of our banking background parang
Mm-mm.
taking over, no? Kasi in banking, although it is a bank, there's many types of data in a bank, no? Deposits, loans, credit cards, digital banking, as opposed to, of course, this is traditionally a view, no? Let's say in a telco, it's just one type of data, which is the telco
Mm-hmm.
data, the OSS, the BSS, no? And we also encounter this in the humanitarian sector or the science sectors. Like if you meet someone who does geospatial, that's just they just do geospatial or they just do remote sensing. Or if you meet like digital marketers, they just do digital marketing. So we really found a good niche, if I remember, trying to blend the two. Okay, let's look at air quality data and then see what COVID data has to do with it, or take mobility
Right.
data, diba? Um, since you actually did most of that work, can you talk a bit about that, the idea of blending data and what your thought process normally is, just for people to kind of get some inspiration kaya.
Okay. So I really like one of the frameworks that we use. So the four box framework. So what's the problem, and then um, what's the data you should use, the analysis, and then the measurement, and that and the cycle goes on. So I think it's very important because when just to step back a bit, when I was younger, being a young statistician or quantitative risk practitioner, it's always exciting to focus on algorithms, methodologies, etc. Without really focusing first on the problem. So I think it's important to first focus on the problem at hand. What are we trying to solve? And then that should help guide the data sets to look for. That's really my thought process. Okay, what's the problem? So what available data can be used? No, even internally, when I was in banking, what internal data can I use to answer a particular problem, whether for a modeling project or just a simple ad hoc task? So what's available that to use? And then when you have a good grasp of the problem, then you are able to better create features or analyze the data. You know how to query. You know how to query the data better, because you understand the problem. And then um, this is something that I experienced and this in Cyrillytics. There's more open data now, or at least I have access to able to use in my projects more open data, because it's a bit restrictive when you're part of a bank, because you have to use certain types of data, or at least back in the days. So um, there are a lot of data sets available now. So really the limit is just your imagination. No, so um, research, of course, I'm being a data person, I'm really a researcher by nature. So I like looking at, okay, um, what resources can I use? No? Data sets, libraries, codes, etc. Can I use, no? To query the data sets in such a way that I can get to the answer. So yeah, that is really my approach. Really focusing first on the problem, knowing why the problem has to be solved, and then research for resources, data included, that you can use to answer the questions.